Black Emperor are a Canadian post-rock band formed in Montreal in 1994, although the word collective might be better than band, given that they, for quite a while, had quite a revolving door attitude towards musicians. They did stabilise after a while. They took a break from 2003 to 2010. They have been mistaken for terrorists and accused of being anarchists, and they have released 7 albums. Hi, my name's Dan. So this is the 8th album released by Godspeed, Black Emperor, and it was released a couple of months ago, 2.5. So I've been a bit slow getting around to it as a new release, but I hope it's acceptable. I have enjoyed Godspeed in the past, and so that's what brought them to my attention. And I actually found this listed as a release before it was actually released. And so what was said about the title, which is what has actually ended up as the title, was no title as of 13th of February 2024, 28,340 dead. I thought that was strange, because I thought no title as of 13th of February, that's fine for something that hasn't come out. But this is actually the title that they've got as they released it, so which is interesting. So apparently this is a political statement about Palestinian deaths in Israeli strikes. Right. I'm going to just pause here and say the thing that I usually say at the start of a new release review, which is obviously this is a review of a new released album. Most of the reviews on my channel, and there's 900 plus of them at this point in time, are actually me working my way through a list of the 3,000 greatest albums of all time, according to Acclaimed Music. It's been a fascinating journey for me. I've been reviewing from number 3,000 upwards, and I'm going to hit number 2,000 probably in a few months' time. So, do check out the rest of the videos on this channel. There's a lot of classic albums being reviewed. Occasionally, though, I step off the list, and one of those reasons to step off is for new releases. And so that's what I'm doing here. Right. So let's get back to the political nature of this. Apparently, the Far Out website called it a politically charged masterpiece. So my feelings on this is that it's instrumental. So it's hard to be political, or it's hard to say anything very specific through an instrumental album, I would say. And also, when you're setting something like that up for an album, it's quite a big thing to live up to for an album, to make a political statement like this. I think the track names are where it kind of starts to paint a picture, and then in the kind of feel of the tracks, tell you something about what they think connected with the track names. It is possible to set yourself up for something like this, to actually set yourself up to fail. I think it's a dangerous thing. It could fall flat and be embarrassing. I think that I would say that they haven't, but I'm not sure that I pick up on it as a political album in the same way that maybe it's intended to be. Wikipedia described this as post-rock, so that's what I put on the thing at the start of the video. I'm not sure that that's a great description. There are elements that I would think of as post-rock, but again, I'm not an expert. But I'm going to try and do better than that. But that's going to require me to give you a list of things that it has kind of connections to. Drone, noise, dark ambient, soundscapes, krautrock and space rock. And I think combining those things together, I'm not going to go into detailed descriptions of all of those, or possibly even any of those. It's got textures rather than tunes, and it's about feelings and expressions. There are, as the kind of instruments generally used here, are electric guitars, drums, bass, upright bass, percussion, tape loops, and violin. And when it has rhythm, it's got this space rock expansive feel to it. It's kind of like it's rolling on. Otherwise, it's kind of soundscapey and often quite drony. It's kind of big sound, but it's very continuous sound. And it's I went from when it started for me going, oh yeah, there's another Godspeed dark ambient kind of album, to actually becoming deeply engrossed with the album as I listened to it. Um, as an aesthetic, I'd say it reminded me of kind of thoughts of frozen dark wastes, the tundra at night. It sounds quite Scandinavian to me in some ways. They're Canadian. I guess they have large, wide, cold, open spaces in Canada, and it feels like a large, wide, cold, open space to me. Overall, the effect I would say is beautiful. It did affect me quite deeply. It's got sadness and despair in it, but it's also somehow beautiful. Um, excuse me, despite the fact that at times it's got glitch elements and overdriven, it's got a broken beauty to it. Uh, it's really nicely mixed, it is nicely produced, and it's nicely played. It's played with feeling, which is something that's not easy, I think, to achieve with this kind of music. And this kind of music often feels very electronic, and this doesn't. It doesn't have that kind of mechanistic feel to it. It feels very human. Um, I would say potentially don't listen to this if you're prone to depression because it does have that because it won't help. But actually, maybe that's wrong. Maybe maybe it would be therapeutic because if some people find that music that expresses the way they feel can be cathartic. Um, I would say that listening to it in headphones in the dark is probably the ideal way of listening to it lying down. Um, and yeah, so I found it's grand, and as I said, I found it utterly absorbing. It's weird, so it's not kind of mainstream rock by any stretch of the imagination, but it's weird in a way that I'm pretty familiar with and feel comfortable with. So I, for one, think it's a great album. I know it won't be for everyone. And as always, at this point, I'd love to invite you to tell me what you think of this album that's newly out. So if that requires you to go and have a listen, I would encourage that because I like this album. So please do let me know what you think of this album, of the review, of Godspeed, or of anything that I've said that you want to add anything to or contradict me. I'm always up for that. So please do by leaving comments in the comments. And that's it from me for now.